What's up YouTube, Zero here, and today I have an absolutely incredible Infernape EX and Flareon EX deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. You read that correctly and you heard that correctly. Infernape EX is absolutely phenomenal when paired with Flareon EX. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why this deck works so well, and Infernape EX and Flareon EX are the perfect pair. Before I get into it, I do want to say if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. Without further ado, let's talk about this deck. When Infernape was first released, back in the Space-Time Smackdown packs released, Infernape was a cool card, especially if you like Infernape. I know I absolutely love Infernape, one of my favorite Pokemon, top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time. But the card wasn't, and to be honest, still isn't great by itself. Infernape has Flare Blitz. So for 2 fire energy, you deal 140 damage. On the surface, that's absolutely awesome. Only 2 energy to deal 140 damage is absolutely incredible. However, there's a caveat to that. After damaging with Flare Blitz, you discard all fire energy from Infernape. So that's a problem for several reasons. One, you're discarding at a bare minimum both fire energies. That means that you're going to have to take a turn unless you have some form of Pokemon to expedite the fire energy buildup on Infernape. You're going to have to take a turn not to attack, or take a turn to retreat Infernape into a Pokemon that can attack. What's nice about Infernape EX is it does have a 0 retreat cost, so you can retreat it for free. However, you're not going to be able to consistently damage with Infernape EX unless you have an outside agent, other cards that can fuel Infernape EX. The second problem is that reading the description, you discard all fire energy from Infernape EX. It's not just 2 fire energy. If it was discard 2 fire energy, you could potentially get away and Infernape EX would still be a decent card. You discard 2 fire energy, and that's okay if you've built up a little bit of energy on Infernape. You could attach 3 or 4 fire energy, and you won't have to worry about attacking with Infernape. However, it does not matter how much energy you have built up on Infernape. As soon as you attack with Flare Blitz, all of that energy goes away. It's discarded to the discard pile. So now you're left not being able to attack with Infernape EX on consecutive turns. That's where Flareon EX and Dawn come in, and I want to talk about these 2 cards in combination with Infernape EX first, and then I'll talk about the basic Pokemon that you need in this deck, of course, to evolve into each of the evolutions. But Infernape EX is going to be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Palkia packs. So we've talked about Infernape and the benefits, it attacking for an insane amount of damage for little energy, and the drawbacks, of course, discarding all fire energy, meaning you either have to retreat with Infernape, take a hit with Infernape before you can attack again, or have some form of fuel for Infernape to be able to attack in consecutive turns. That's where Flareon EX and Dawn come in. So now let's talk about Flareon EX. Flareon EX has an ability as well as a move. Let's talk about the ability first, Combust. Once during your turn, you may attach a fire energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. If you do 20 damage to this Pokemon. So Flareon, if it's on the bench, can combust, meaning you can take a fire energy from the discard pile and attach it to Flareon. That's pretty nice because it can expedite the energy on Flareon. If you do need Flareon to attack, it's going to be able to attack a little bit quicker. Of course, this is at a cost. You're going to be doing 20 damage to Flareon EX, but at least you can expedite the energy buildup on Flareon EX. Flareon EX also has a move, Fire Spin. For 2 fire energy and 1 colorless energy, you discard 2 fire energy from this Pokemon when you do attack with Fire Spin, but you're dealing 130 damage. So a decent amount, you're dealing 130 damage, however you do have to discard 2 fire energy from Flareon, but you have Combust to kind of make up for that. Yes, you're dealing 20 damage to yourself, but you are able to attack on consecutive turns if you're utilizing Combust and the energy from the energy zone. Now let's talk about why Flareon EX combined with Dawn is absolutely perfect for Infernape EX. And for those of you who don't know, Flareon EX is going to be found in the Eevee Grove packs. So now we have Dawn. And Dawn is essential for this deck and the Infernape EX Flareon EX combination. So for Dawn, you move an energy from one of your benched Pokemon to your active Pokemon. Dawn is going to be found in the Spacetime Smackdown Dialga packs. But let's go over that in combination with Flareon EX. So Infernape EX is in that active slot and just attacked with Flare Blitz, dealing 140 damage. The hope is, of course, you KO'd the Pokemon you were attacking, but you just attacked with 140 damage, and now both of the energy from your Infernape is discarded. You now have no energy on your Infernape. Well, you have a Flareon EX on the bench. Your opponent attacks or utilizes their turn however they choose, and it's your turn again. So Infernape EX is in that active slot. Your Flareon EX is on the bench and you combust. So now you have a fire energy on your Flareon EX. While you have Dawn in your hand, you utilize Dawn, you move that fire energy got from the discard pile on Flareon to your Infernape, and then you attach an energy from the energy zone to your Infernape, and your Infernape is able to attack again in consecutive turns without having to retreat, pause for a turn, take some damage. You can attack 2 turns in a row. This is absolutely phenomenal, dealing 140 damage 2 turns in a row. At the cost of course, you're going to have to use a supporter card in Dawn, and you are going to have to take 20 damage from Flareon EX. But this is absolutely awesome because you're going to be able to damage for 140 damage 2 consecutive turns. It catches a lot of opponents off guard, not realizing this strategy. Not many people are utilizing a deck like this, but it's an absolutely phenomenal strategy. I've caught a lot of opponents off guard. I've been able to go toe-to-toe with some of the best decks and defeated a lot of the best decks in the game. I've defeated the Giratina, Greninja, Sylveon decks that are very popular right now. I've defeated a lot of Solgaleo decks. I've defeated Charizard EX decks. I've defeated a lot of decks with this trio in this deck. It's an absolutely fun deck and can really take it to some of the best decks and even beat them. I'm actually on a 5-win streak in ranked right now with this deck. So that's the combination of these 3. Of course, don't count out your Flareon EX being able to deal damage either, because Flareon EX can deal a decent amount of damage. You don't just have to win with Infernape in this deck. You can also win with Flareon EX. So just be aware of that Flareon EX can win as well. Let's talk about our Flareon EX in terms of winning itself when combined with Eevee Bag, because Eevee Bag is another great item for this deck, of course, solely focused on our Flareon EX. But let's talk about Eevee Bag. So Eevee Bag, you actually get one of 2 options. The first is, during this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon that evolve from Eevee do plus 10 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, or you can heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon that evolves from Eevee. So this is pretty cool. You can choose either doing extra damage or healing up damage from either your Flareon EX or your Sylveon, which I will talk about Sylveon in a little bit. But you can heal up or you can deal more damage. What's nice about the Eevee bag is it's an item, meaning you can play multiple items in the same turn, meaning you can stack both of the Eevee bags. What's awesome about that is Flareon EX deals 130 damage. If you are able to play both Eevee bags, you now deal 150 damage. So that's pretty awesome. You can get over a couple of breaking points. You can finish off a couple of enemies that may have 140 or 150 HP. You can see on my opponent's side during this clip, there's a Wugtrio EX that has 140 HP. There's a Palkia EX that has 150. If I were to utilize my Flareon EX with both of the Eevee bags, I can one-hit KO them. So Eevee bag is great when combined with Flareon in this deck. It's also nice because utilizing Combust is going to take away HP from Flareon. Eevee bag can heal up that HP. If your Infernape is on a roll and you're just utilizing your Infernape, you have some Dawns in your hand, so you're just focusing on your Infernape attacking. So it can heal up your Flareons, so they're not as weak or susceptible to a Cyrus. So just be aware of that, because you can use Combust, take 20 damage, and then utilize Eevee bag to heal that damage and go back up to full health, so you're not susceptible to a Cyrus. But it depends on how the game is flowing. Eevee bag is going to be found in the Eevee Grove packs as well. Next, let's talk about Sylveon. I have one Sylveon in this deck just to expedite some of the cards drawn. So for those of you who don't know, Sylveon EX, and because I'm only running Fire Energy in this deck, Sylveon EX is only going to be useful for its ability. So Sylveon EX's ability is Happy Ribbon. Once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may draw 2 cards. So that's pretty awesome. It is a Professor's Research in an ability form, and that's what Sylveon EX is doing as a part of this deck. It's to expedite drawing more cards, because in reality, as I mentioned earlier, the trio that you need is Infernape, Dawn, and Flareon. You want them out on the field as quickly as possible. Well, your Infernape and Flareon out on the field as quickly as possible and dealing damage with either your Infernape or your Flareon. So of course, drawing extra cards is going to be extremely important, so you can get your Dawn and you can get your rare candy that's going to help you evolve Chimchar into Infernape. And Sylveon's going to be found in the Eevee Grove packs, just like Flareon EX. Next, let's talk about our rare candy, because I just mentioned it. Rare candy, I've mentioned it in pretty much all of my videos, because I put a rare candy in every video that I have a stage 2 Pokemon in. So rare candy, what this does in terms of this deck, if you have a Chimchar on the playing field and it's been there for at least 1 turn, you can utilize rare candy to evolve into Infernape, skipping the stage 1 of this evolution line. You can see I don't have the stage 1 in this deck. I just have Chimchar and Infernape, which is the stage 2. So I get to evolve right into Infernape, skipping the stage 1. So I utilize 2 rare candies for that. Rare candy is going to be found in the Celestial Guardians packs. It's a really great item to get, so I recommend grinding for it if you don't have them, because it's going to be very useful in every deck that you have stage 2 Pokemon. Next, Professor's Research. You draw 2 cards. Pretty easy to see why that card is in this deck. I mentioned earlier trying to get through all of the cards in the deck as quickly as possible so I can implement the strategy. Pokeball, you draw a basic from the deck to the hand. Another pretty obvious card, getting the basics out onto the playing field as quickly as possible so I can eventually evolve into the Pokemon that I need. Last but not least, I have a bunch of Eevees in this deck. I have 2 basic Eevees, non-EX Eevees, that have one colorless move for Collect. That's going to be found in the Eevee Grove pack. Collect is nice because you're drawing cards. I don't really need to deal damage with Eevee because I am just trying to draw cards as quickly as possible so I can evolve into Infernape, I can evolve into Flareon, I can get Dawn in my hand and just start rolling. And then Eevee EX. This is a Pokemon that's going to allow me to evolve into my other Eevees, Eevee forms, Sylveon, and Flareon. That's why I have the 3 Eevees in the deck, 2 Eevees and 1 Eevee EX. Of course, Eevee EX has VV Evolve. This Pokemon can evolve into any Pokemon that evolves from Eevee if you play it from your hand onto this Pokemon. So that's pretty great. I can utilize 2 Eeveelutions in this deck and I can have them all on the field, which is absolutely phenomenal. Eevee EX also has a move in the term of Bite for 1 colorless energy, dealing 30 damage. And Eevee EX is going to be found in the Eevee Grove packs as well. That is the deck, but it's absolutely phenomenal. As I mentioned earlier, I've been winning a ton with this deck. Flareon EX and Infernape EX combined with Dawn is the absolute perfect combination. If Infernape is in the active slot in attacking and you have Dawn in your hand, Flareon on the bench is going to be great to fuel up Infernape. If you aren't able to get Infernape, Flareon EX can do some damage itself, so you don't necessarily need Infernape EX to win the battle. Flareon EX can win the battle by itself. It's an absolutely phenomenal card to win battles by itself. Sylveon EX is here to help expedite the draw of cards from the deck to your hand because, of course, as I mentioned earlier, you absolutely need Dawn. You need Rare Candy to evolve into Infernape. You need EV Bag possibly to either heal up Flareon or deal some extra damage with Flareon. So having the extra card draw is absolutely great for this deck. Now, there are a couple of options with this deck. Some of you who are watching this video are going to say, well, you didn't plan for Oricorio, and you're absolutely right. I did not plan for Oricorio. Now, Eevee EX and Chimchar can absolutely deal some damage to Oricorio. Sorry, not Eevee EX. EX Pokemon can't deal damage to Oricorio. Chimchar can deal some damage to Oricorio, but I didn't necessarily plan for it. If you really want, you can go with 1 Flareon EX and 1 non-EX Flareon, the one that deals 110 damage. You can absolutely go that route. I did not. I opted for 2 Flareons because if I have 2 Flareons on the bench, that gives me multiple opportunities to combust, which means if I combust twice, I get 1 Flareon with 1 energy, 1 Flareon with another. So if I do need to put Flareon EX into that active slot after Infernape, I get that opportunity. So I do like having the 2 Flareon EXs just because it expedites the energy. But if you do want to have a non-EX Flareon in this deck, just to prepare for Oricorio, I would not fault you at all. Again, right now this deck only has Chimchar that can deal damage to Oricorio. So just be aware of that. I am sacrificing the battle against Oricorio a little bit because I prefer having 2 Flareons, because 2 Flareons on the bench can expedite the energy pull from that discard pile to your Pokemon and allow you to potentially set up a Flareon in that active slot if you do need it for Infernape. Maybe you don't get Dawn, or maybe you utilize your Dawns and you need Flareon out there. I absolutely love this deck. As I mentioned earlier, I am on a 5-win streak with it currently, and I've been dominating some of the best decks in the meta right now with this deck. I recommend checking it out. If you check it out, let me know what you think in the comments section. Is this a deck that you're going to start utilizing, or is this a deck that you're going to toss to the side? Let me know in the comments section. It's an absolutely phenomenal deck. You're going to love it just as much as I do, especially if you love Infernape as much as I do. Great card. great Pokemon. So let me know in the comment section what y'all think. If there is a Pokemon that you'd like to see a deck built around, let me know in the comment section and I'll get it done. Again, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. It does really help out me and my channel. Until next time, peace.